Well, hey guys, we're at Sinking Springs Farm, Kentucky today, the home of Thomas Lincoln. Thomas and Nancy Lincoln moved to Sinking Spring Farm in 1808, 16 years after Kentucky became a state. They could visit a few stores in their little community, but they were mostly self-reliant for their shelter and their food and their tools. You can hike through the Lincoln Family Farm site and learn all about frontier life and survival on the Lincoln Family Farm. Well, Thomas and Nancy paid $200 for 300 acres of this stony land on Nolan Creek. The couple had a daughter named Sarah, who was about a year old when they moved here. The red clay around these parts is not known for its fertility, and Sinking Springs even stood on the edge of what was called the Barrens. The Barrens were a great tract of land made treeless by Indian fires to create grazing for their game. Sinking Spring was closer to Nancy's relatives, and it's only 3 miles south of Hodgins Mill. The family moved into a one-room log cabin right near the Sinking Spring, which you're just about to see. The cabin was 18 by 16 feet, one window, and a dirt floor. And oh, yes, of course, a fireplace. As the winter became more cold, it became close to time for Nancy to deliver her baby. On Sunday, February 12th, 1809, she lay really close to the fire on her bed of corn shucks. This little family welcomed into the world a new child, a little boy whose name was Abraham Lincoln. The little baby Lincoln, who would be president one day, probably took his first drink from the Sinking Spring. The Lincolns lived a life of a frontier farm family. This meant long hours behind the plow and tramping through the woods for food for the family. The Park Service will tell you that about 100 years after Thomas moved the Lincolns and the future president from Sinking Springs Farm, a log cabin that was well accepted as the birthplace cabin of Abraham Lincoln was placed in a memorial building. While the cabin is it is not accepted by the Park Service to be Lincoln's birthplace cabin. They call it a replica. After the Lincolns left the farm, well, of course, it changed hands several times, and around 1906, the Lincoln Farm Association was formed to help preserve President Lincoln's birthplace. This group purchased a cabin and raised over $350,000 to build a memorial to house the cabin. In 1911, President William Howard Taft dedicated the marble and granite memorial you see before you. President Lincoln once wrote, "I was born and have ever remained in the most humble walks of life." The Park Service says that this cabin and memorial dramatizes the basic values that sustained President Lincoln as he led the nation through its darkest period. This memorial and Sinking Spring Farm were established as a national park in 1916, and the president's boyhood home at Knob Creek became a unit of the Abraham Lincoln birthplace. Knob Creek is about 10 miles east of the birthplace, and the Lincolns lived there until about 1816. Abraham Lincoln was certainly a passionate defender of the Union. As president, he seemed to affirm working people, as he was most certainly a product of frontier Kentucky. After he matured into adulthood, the president didn't really like to talk about what he called his stinted living time here in Kentucky. Lincoln called this time the short and simple annals of the poor. You can see this single-room replica cabin with one window, a door, and a small fireplace, a shingled roof, and a low chimney made out of clay, straw, and hardwood. That tiny window was probably covered with some kind of greased paper or animal skin. Certainly a far cry from the dwellings that the president stayed in later in his life, but this hardscrabble existence impacted his character greatly and thus helped form our nation. Lincoln left this log cabin and, as you know, became our 16th president of the United States. He served as president from 1861 until his death in 1865, when he was assassinated. He, of course, led the United States of America through its Civil War and played a major role in the abolition of slavery. Well, I hope you've enjoyed exploring the birthplace of a future president today. Thank you.